Good morning, students. Today, the topic which we are going to discuss is methods of educational psychology, and the methods which we are going to discuss is introspection method and case study method. Now, learning objectives of today's topic are introspection method. You will able to define what do you mean by introspection method. Stages of introspection method. What are the different stages of introspection method? Characteristics of introspection method. What are the different characteristics of an introspection method? Merits of introspection method. What are the merits of introspection method? Limitations of introspection method. What are the different limitations of an introspection method? Then we are going to discuss the case history study method, need of case study method, case study applications and elements of a case study. First, we will discuss the introspection method, the founder of introspection method. Introspection method. Introspection is a method of self-observation where we are observing ourselves. The word intro means within and spection means looking. When we are looking within ourselves, then we are saying that it is an introspection method. Here, it is a method where an individual is looking within oneself. So we can say that introspection method is a method where an individual is looking within oneself. Stott considered that to introspect is to attend to the working of one's own mind in a systematic way. Is to instruct to attend the working of one's mind in a systematic way. Angel considered it as looking inward, and angel considered introspect as we are looking inward. In introspection, the individual peeps into his own mental state, looks into his own mental state, and observes his own mental process, and he will observe his own mental process. Introspection method is the oldest method to collect data, and this is the oldest method in educational psychology for the collection of data about the conscious experiences of the subject, and through this method we will able to collect the data about the conscious experiences of the subject. It is the process of self examination where one perceives, analyzes and reports one's own feeling. Means it's a way where we are going to self examine our own, once perceive how we are perceiving something, analyzing that and reports one's own feeling. For example, suppose you are happy and in the state of happiness you look within yourself. You are happy and in that state of happiness you look within yourself. It is said that you are introspecting your own mental feeling and examine what is going on. When you are looking within yourself means you are introspecting your own mental feelings, how was your mental feeling, and examining those mental feeling, what is going on in your mental process in that state of happiness. Similarly, you may introspect yourself in the state of anger. In the same way, when you are in the state of anger, you can also introspect within yourself and fear, etc. Introspection is also defined as the notice which the mind takes of itself. Stages of introspection method. There are three clear stages of introspection. The first one is during the observation of external object. When you are going to observe an external object, the person begins to ponder over his own mental state. Now, in that situation, the particular person is pondering upon his own mental state. For example, while listening to music, while you are listening to a particular music, which is to him pleasant or unpleasant, that particular music or that particular listening to the music will give you a pleasant or an unpleasant feeling. He start thinking about his own mental state, and when he is listening to that particular music start thinking about his own mental state, whether he is pleasant or is unpleasant. The person begins to question the working of his own mind, and the person starts questioning about the working of his own mind. He thinks and analysis. He is thinking process and analysis. Why has he said such or such thing? Why he had said such or such things had been told by him? Why has he talked in a particular manner, and so on? And he start asking questions why he has talked in a particular manner. He tries to frame the laws and conditions of the mental process. With that, he tries to frame the laws, different laws and conditions of the mental process. He thinks in terms of improvement of his reasoning or the control of his emotional stages, and he tries to control the emotional stages of his. This stage help in the advancement of our scientific knowledge, and this stages particularly help a particular individual in the advancement of her scientific knowledge. Now, characteristics of introspection method. Introspection began self-observation, means when we are talking about introspection, we are saying it's a self-observation. Has the following characteristics, and that introspection has the following characteristics. The first one is the subjects get direct, immediate, and intuitive knowledge about the mind. Means the subject has direct, immediate, and intuitive knowledge about the mind because he is self evaluating, self observing his own mind. The subject has actually to observe his own mental process. When we are talking about the introspection, the subject has actually to observe his own mental process. He cannot speculate about them, and he cannot be speculated about uh, the mental process. Introspection method was widely used in the past, and this method was used widely in the past. Its uses in modern time is questioned. It is considered unscientific. Introspection method is considered unscientific and not in keeping in psychology. And when we are talking that this is an unscientific method, so we cannot keep that method in psychology, which has recently emerged out as positive signs. And when we are talking about this psychology, it is emerging as a positive signs. That's why are considering introspection method as an unscientific way. However, it is still being used by psychologists. But however, the introspection method is still used by the psychologists. And though its importance is being questioned, it is not totally discarded. Though we are saying that is importance is being questioned, but we cannot totally discard the introspection method. Now, merits of introspection method. What are the different merits of conducting an introspection method? What are the advantages of the introspection method? It is the cheapest and most economical method of studying behavior. So, why we are going to use this method? We are saying that we are going to use this method because this method is the cheapest and the most economical method for studying the behavior of a particular individual. We do not need any apparatus or laboratory for its use. Why we are calling it an economical and cheapest method? Because we do not need any apparatus or laboratory when we are going to use the introspection method. This method can be used at any time, anywhere. Means the introspection method can be used at any time and it can be used anywhere. You can introspect while walking, means you can introspect your behavior while you are walking, traveling while you are traveling, sitting on a bed, and so on. Even when you are sitting on a bed, you can introspect your behavior. It is the easiest method and readily available to an individual. It is the easiest method to introspect your own behavior, studying your own behavior, and readily available to an individual. And that method will be readily available to any particular individual. The introspection data is first hand as the person himself examines his own activities. Now, we are saying that the data that will be collected by the introspection method is the first hand data that will be collected uh, as the person is himself observing his own activities, and after observing his own activities he is collecting the data. That's why we are calling it a first hand data. Introspection has generated research which gradually leads to the development of the more objective method. Means this particular method has generated research, and the researches leads to the development of the more objective methods of assessment. It is still used in all experimental investigation. Means we are still using introspection method in all experimental investigation. It is the only method with the help of which an individual can know his emotions and feeling. And we are saying that introspection method is the only method, is the only way with the help of which, with the help of the introspection method, an individual can know his emotions and feeling. With a uh, uh, with the help of introspection method, we can able to know that these are the particular feelings and emotions of a particular individual. William James has pointed out its importance in these words. Means William James has defined the importance of introspection method in these particular words. Introspective observation is what we have to rely on first and foremost and always. Means introspection observation is what we have to rely on first and foremost and always we have to. The word introspection can hardly be defined its meaning. Means it is hardly been defined what is the meaning of introspection. Of course, looking into our own minds, when we are look into our own minds and reporting what we there discover and reporting what we have. Everyone agrees that there are states of consciousness. Everyone agrees that there are the different states of consciousness in a particular individual. So far as I know, the existence of such states has never been doubted by my critics. However, spectacle in other respects they may have been. Now let us discuss limitations of introspection method. The first one, in introspection, one needs to examine one's mental process. Means when we are talking about the introspection method, In that, one needs to examine one's own mental process carefully in the form of feelings. One's own mental process, uh, when he is examining his own mental process, he should be careful in the form of feeling. What are his particular feeling, thoughts, what are the thought that are going on, and sensation. The state of one's mental process is continuously changing. As the state of one's mental process is continuously changing, it cannot be remain same. Therefore, when one concentrates on introspecting a particular phase of one's mental activity, that phase passes off. So, when we a person decided that he will start introspecting a particular phase of one's mental activity, that phase passes off. For example, when you get angry at something, you become angry at something, and afterwards sit down to introspect calmly. And after that, you just sit in a calm position. The state of anger is sure to have passed off. When you are introspecting calmly, the state, your mental state of being your anger is surely have to be passed off. And so what you try to observe is not what is happening. So when you are doing so, you are so calm out, and now you are trying to observe your mental state, but that mental state is not the same. Is observe is not what is happening at that time with yourself, but what is happening at that time with yourself, but what had happened sometime before. Means you have to observe that is happened before to you. You are not going to observe what is happening to you at that current time. The data collected by introspection cannot be verified. Means the data that has been collected by the introspection method cannot be verified. An individual cannot pass through the same mental state again. There is no independent way to check the data, and there is not an independent way to check the whether the data that has been collected through that particular phase can be verified or not. The data collected through introspection lacks validity and reliability. Means the data that has been collected with the help of the introspection method lacks validity as well as reliability. It is impossible to acquire validity, and it is impossible to acquire validity of that particular data that has been collected through the introspection method. And exactness in self observation of one's own mental process. The data collected by introspection is highly subjective. The data that has been collected is not objective data; it's a subjective data. We are ourselves collecting that particular data, and we are not objective in collecting that. It has a danger of being biased, and when we are saying that it has subjectivity, then we are saying that the data that has been collected through the method of introspection method, it must be biased and influenced by preconceptions of the individual, and the data not only being biased, but it will be influenced by perception of the individual. The observer and the observed are the same. Means the observer, though the person who is going to observe his own behavior, and the observed means the particular mental state, these are the same. Hence there is an ample scope for the individual to lie deliberately and hide the facts to mislead others. When observer and observed are the same, then there is an ample scope for for the individual to lie deliberately and hide the facts, and it will mislead others. Introspection cannot be applied to children, cannot be applied to children, animal, and abnormal people. Introspection is logically defective. One and at the same person is the experimenter and observer. It is not possible for the same individual to act as an experimenter as well as an observer. Means it is very difficult for a particular individual to act as an experimenter as well as an observer. Thus, introspection is logically defective, and that's why we are saying that the introspection method is logically defective. Now, conclusion: the limitation of introspection can be overcome by practice and training. Means the limitations that we are saying that the observer and the observed behavior are is the same individual, and that limitations of introspection can be overcome by continuous practice and the training in the field how to introspect one's own mind by remaining alert during introspection and by comparing results obtained by experts. Now, the next method which we are going to discuss is case study method. Two graduate students and researchers unfamiliar with case study methodology. There is often misleading about what a case study is and how it as a form of qualitative research. Now, what do you mean by case study? Uh, there are some misleading facts about the case study. Case study is a form of qualitative descriptive research. Is a form of qualitative descriptive research that is used to look at individuals. With the help of the case study, we are able to use to look at the individuals, a small group of participants or a group as a whole. We can uh, took research or to look at individuals, a particular individual, a small group of participants, or a group as a whole. This qualitative method of study emphasizes detailed conceptual analysis of a limited number of events or conditions and their relationship. Researchers have used the case study research method for many years across a variety of disciplines. That means this is a particular method that has been used by the researcher from many years across a variety of discipline. Means it is not confined only to a particular discipline. Case study method can be applied to a variety of disciplines. Now, case study defined. It is a systematic inquiry. It's a systematic way into an event or a set of related events. When we are making a systematic inquiry into a particular event or a set of related events, which aims to describe, and the case study method aims to describe and explain the phenomena of interest. Means with the help of that we are able to describe and explain the phenomena of interest. It refers to the collection. When we are talking about the case study method, it refers to the collection and presentation of detailed information. Collection and presentation of the detailed information that we have collected about a particular participant or small group, frequently including the accounts of subject themselves. It is an in-depth study of a particular situation. When we are doing or try to understand in depth of a particular situation rather than swiping statistical survey. When is a case study appropriate? When we call that particular case study as an appropriate case study. According to Yin 2003, a case study can be considered when we are talking about the case study, we are considering when the focus of the study is to answer. Now, the focus of conducting a case study is to answer how and why questions. Means the case study will help you to give the answers of how and why questions. You can manipulate the behavior of those involved in the study. Means when you are talking about the case study approach, you cannot manipulate the behavior of those individuals who are involved in this particular study. You want to cover conceptual conditions because you believe they are relevant to the phenomena under study. And as an individual, you want to cover the conceptual conditions because you believe they are relevant to the phenomena under study. The boundaries are not clear between the phenomena and context, and the boundaries are not clear between the phenomena and the context that we are going to study. What may be relieved? What may be considered as a relieved? Through case study, a researcher can closely examine the data within a specific context. Means, with the help of a case study, a researcher can closely examine the data within a specific context. Through case study, means with the help of a case study, a researcher can examine contemporary real life situations. Means with the help of that he can examine the real life situations and provide the basis for the applications of ideas and extensions of method, and it will provide the basis for the application of idea, how the idea can be applied, and extension of methods. Through case study, a researcher can test theoretical models by using them in real world situations. Means with the help of the case study, a researcher can test theoretical models by using them in real world situations. A case study may not answer the questions completely, that it is not that we will able to get a question answers in a complete form, but it will give some indications, but that answer will give some indications and allow further elaboration, and on the basis of that we can make further elaboration and hypothesis creation on a subject, and hypothesis can be created for a particular subject or on a particular subject. Why use a case study? What is the need of using a case study? Case studies are a great way to improve our learning experiences. With the help of the case study, we can improve our learning experiences for a particular learner because they get the learner involved, because in that learning process a learner is involved, and encourage immediate use of newly acquired skill, and in that we can encourage them to immediately use a newly acquired skill. They differ from lectures or assigned readings. Means case study are totally different from the lectures or the assigned reading because they require participation, as these require what participation and deliberate application of a broad range of skills, and they are different from the lectures or the assigned readings in that manner because the case study methods require participation and deliberate application of a broad range of skills. Case studies help researchers, means it will help the researcher make the difference between knowing what to do, means make the difference between knowing what to do, means what has to be done, and knowing how, when, and why to do it, and knowing how, when, and why to do that particular thing. Now, case study applications. Utilization of the case study as a teaching method means you can use case study as a teaching method. Practical application and testing of scholarly knowledge provides an approximation of various professional environments, that classroom, boardroom, courtroom, or hospital. incorporates the idea that students can learn from one another by engaging with each other. When we engage the students, two students with each other, and either other's ideas and with each other ideas by asserting something and then having its question challenged and thrown back at them so that they can reflect on what they hear and then refine what they say. Broader in 1990. Now, designs of case study. There are different designs of case study on the basis of their purposes to obtain as complete a picture of the participants as possible. Case study researchers can employ a variety of case study design. Means they can employ a variety of case study design. Some common designs include single case and multiple case design. Some common design that can be used by the researcher are the single case and the multiple case design. And these are the two common designs. Now, the first one, single case design. It is where events are limited to a single occurrence. Means it's a event where the single occurrence is up to the limit. Means uh, events are limited to a single occurrence. However, the drawback of this design is its inability to provide a generalizing conclusion, in particular when the events are rare. The major drawback of using this particular method is that its inability means a single case design unable to provide a generalizing conclusion means that generalization can be made to the society or to the people, in particular when the events are rare, and the generalization is not also possible when the events are very rare. Now, multiple case designs, it can be adopted with real life events. Means we can adopt it with from the real life events that show numerous sources of evidence, and that multiple case design show numerous sources of evidence through replication rather than sampling logic, and these numerous sources of evidence through replication rather than sampling logic. Now, type of case study. What are the different types of case study that can be used? The first one is explanatory. This type of case study would be used means explanatory method or the case study method can be used if you are seeking to answer a question, when you are trying to get an answer to a particular question that sought to explain, and that question sought to explain the presumed causal links in real life interventions that are too complex for the survey or experimental strategies. Example, Zoe in 2002 analyzing a web based e commerce learning community, a case study in Brazil, internet research. Now, the next one is exploratory. It is a type of case study, means it's an again a type of a case study that is used to explore. Through that, we can explore those situations in which the intervention being evaluated. Situations in which the interventions can be evaluated has no clear single set of outcomes. Has no clear and single set of outcomes. Example, Lodziger and Waterruff in 2001, an observational study of the development. of a nurse patient relationship, how a nurse patient relationship can be developed. Clinical nursing research. Now, the third one is descriptive. This type of case study is used to describe an intervention of phenomena. When we are going to use a descriptive case study method, and that method is used to describe an intervention of phenomena and the real life context in which it occurs, and with the help of which we are able to describe the real life context in which it is occurred. Example Tonson, Fleming, and Scuderi 2002, Coping with Menstruation, Understanding the Need of Women with Parkinson Disease, Journal of Advanced Nursing, multiple case study. It enables the researcher to explore difference within and between cases. Means with the help of this particular case study, it will help the researcher to explore differences within and between cases. Example Campbell and Ahrens 1999. Innovative community service for rape victim, an application of multiple case study methodology, American Journal of Community Psychology 26. Now the next one is interesting case study method. The term instinct suggests that researchers who have a genuine interest in the case should use this approach. Means that particular individual who have genuine interest should use this approach when the intent is to better understand the case, and when the intent is that we are able to understand or understanding better the case. It is not undertaken primarily because the case represent other cases, and it is not undertaken primarily because the case represents other cases, or because it illustrates a particular trait or problem. When we are saying that it is going to illustrate a particular trait or problem, but because in all its particularity and ordinance, the case itself is of interest. Example Hellstrom, Nolan, and Dutt, 2005. We Do Things Together, a case study of couplehood in dementia, dementia 417222. Instrumental, it is used to accomplish something other than understanding a particular situation. And this type of a case study is used to accomplish something other than understanding a particular situation. It provides insight into an issue, means we will have a deep understanding, insight into a particular issue, or helps to refine a theory. And with the help of that particular case study method, we can refine a theory also. Example Luck, Jackson, and Usaid 2007 STEM, components of observable behavior that indicate potential for patient violence in emergency department, Journal of Advanced Nursing. Now the next one is collective. It is similar in nature and description to multiple case studies. Means uh, the collective case study method is similar in nature and description of the multiple case studies. Example Scubin 2003, role stress in the professional life of the school music teacher. The role of the stress in the professional life of the music school teacher, a collective case study, Journal of Research in Music Education. And this type of study was published in the Journal of Research in Music Education. Now, advantages and limitations of case study. The first one is the primary advantage of case study is that it provides much more detailed information than what is available. Means with the help of the case study, we will have a detailed information about a particular phenomena or event, and that information uh, that is available to us through other methods such as surveys. Means the information that will we will able to get through the surveys, that is not a detailed information, but when we are using the case study method, we will journal get a detailed information related to that particular event. Case study also allows one to present data from multiple methods. Means with the help of case study methods, it's giving us or allowing one to present the data collectively from multiple methods. Can be lengthy because they provide detailed information about the case in narrative form. It may be difficult to hold the reader interest if too lengthy. uh, Sometimes it is difficult to get or to hold a reader's interest if the case study is too lengthy. Concern that case studies lack rigor. Case studies have been viewed in the evaluation and research fields as less rigorous than survey or other methods. Reasons for this include the fact that qualitative research in journal is still considered unscientific by some, and in many cases case study researchers have not been systematic in their data collection or have allowed bias in their findings. Not generalizable means the result that will be uh, we will get or the researcher will get after the completion of the case study, but they cannot generalize that particular results. A common complaint about case studies is that it is difficult to generalize from one case to another. Means this is the common complaint that uh, we get if we employ the case study method, that we are it is difficult to generalize from one case to another. But case studies have also been prone to overgeneralization, which comes from selecting a few examples and assuming without evidence that they are typical or representative of the population. Now, steps involved in a case study. The steps involved in case studies are as follows. The first one is plan. Identify stakeholders who will be involved. Means you have to find out or identify that these are the particular stakeholders that will be involved in the case study. Brainstorm a case study topic considering type of cases and why they are unique or of interest. Identify what information is needed and from whom. You have to identify that what type of information is needed by you and from whom you will get that particular information. Identify any documents needed for review. You have to find out if any documents are needed by you for reviewing the particular case. List stakeholders to and to be interviewed or surveyed, national national facility and beneficial level, and determine sample is necessary. To whom, from where you will get the data, you have to make a list of the stakeholders to whom you will interview or survey to get the information. Ensure research will follow international and national ethical research standards, and it is necessary that your research should follow international and national ethical research standards, including review by ethical research committees. Now, develop instruments, develop interview survey protocols, the rules that guide the administrations, and implementation of the interview survey, and implementations of the interview survey. Put simply, these are the instructions that are followed to ensure consistency across interview, survey, and thus increase the reliability of their finding. Develop an interview guide survey that lists the questions that will have the list of the questions or issues to be explored and included. An informal, consistent form. Please note that you will likely need interview guides survey for each of the stakeholders as questions may differ. Where necessary, translate guide into local languages and test translation. Where it is needed, that you have to translate that guide into local languages and test translations. Train data collectors, identify and train data collectors if necessary, that from whom you will able to collect the data. Collect data, gather all relevant documents. You have to collect all the relevant documents. Step up interview survey with stakeholders. Seek informal consent of each respondent, written or document orally. You have to take the consent from each respondent, and the consent can be a written or oral document. If the respondent has consented, conduct the interview or survey. If the respondent has given you the consent, then after that you can start with your interview and survey. The fifth one, and analyze data. You have to analyze the particular data. Review all the relevant document. You have to review all the relevant document. Review all interview survey data. Now the sixth one is disseminate finding. Write report. You have to prepare the report. Solicit feedback. You have to give a particular feedback. Revise if you think that something is being revised, missing, or disseminate. What are the potential sources of information? Case study typically rely on multiple sources of information. Means you can collect information from various or the multiple sources, and methods to provide as complete a picture as possible. Information sources could include project documents, project reports include quarterly reports, midterm reviews, monitoring visits, mastery client reports, facility assessment reports, interviews, questionnaire survey results, evaluation reports, observation, and others. Now, elements of a case study. A case study do not have set elements that are needed to be included. These elements may vary depending on the case or story chosen, the data collected, and however, case studies typically describe a program or intervention put in place to address a particular problem. Here are some elements that you could draw out from in order to collect your case study. Problem, it is essential to identify what the problem was. You have to identify on the problem which you are going to do your case study. Identify a problem, explain why the problem is important. You have to give the justification. How was the problem identified? Was the problem for identifying the problem effective? 2. Step taken to address the problem. What was done? Activities, interventions, input, where, by whom, or whom. Results. What were the results of your interventions, particularly the significant or unique results? Challenges and how they were met. The focus on what challenges or difficulties you encountered and what you did to overcome it. Beyond results are the results mentioned above, substantial, why or why not, lessons learned, what lessons are learned, programmatic, technical, financial, process, etc. How are case study presented? Case study are flexible in that they can be presented in a number of ways. There is no specific format to follow. Here, here is a suggested report outline that can be used in presenting a case study. Introduction and justification. Here you have to introduce your problem and the justification for selecting that problem. Methodology, which method will be used by you. How was the process carried out? Describe the process of selecting the case and data collection sources as well as how data will be collected. What assumptions are there, if any? Are there any limitations in this method? What instruments were used to collect the data? What samples are being used? Or which period of time was the data collected? The problem, the steps taken to address the problem, the results, the challenges, and how they were met. Beyond results, lessons learned, conclusions, and effectiveness. So, students, today we have discussed the methods of educational psychology, the introspection method, and the case study method. For further reading on this particular topic, you can refer these references. Now, let us discuss some MCQs. Now, what is a research design? Now, the options are a way of conducting research that is not grounded in theory. B. The choice between using qualitative or quantitative methods. C. The style in which you present your research finding. D. A framework for every stage of the collection and analysis of data. So these are the options, students. Now you have to select the correct answer on the basis of the given choices, and the correct answer will be option D. Now, if a study is reliable, this means that, what do you mean, or when we called a study as a reliable one? Now, the options are, the methods are outlined in the methods discussion clearly enough for the researcher to be replicated. B. The measures devised for concepts are stable on different occasions. C. The findings can be generalized to other social phenomena. Or it's D. It was conducted by a reputable researcher who can be interested. So these are the options, and the correct answer will be option B. That is, the major device for concepts are stable on different occasions. Now, internal validity is whether or not there is really a causal relationship between two variables. Option B, whether or not the findings are relevant to the researcher's everyday lives. C, the extent to which the researcher believed that there was a worthwhile project. Or HD, how accurately the measurements represent underlying concept. So these are the options, and the correct one will be whether or not there is really a causal relationship between two variables, means option A. Lincoln and Cuba 1985 proposes that an alternative criteria for evaluating qualitative research would be A. Tidiness, B. Trustworthiness, C. Impressiveness, or D. Massiveness. So the correct answer is option B, that is trustworthiness. Naturalism has been defined as, uh, options are minimizing the institution of artificial methods of data collection into the field, being true to the nature the phenomena being researched, yielding natural and social objects as belonging to the same domain, or D, all the above. So these are the options, students, and the correct answer will be option D, that is all of the above. The term external validity is concerned with, the options are the extent questions of whether the results of a particular study can be generalized beyond the specific research context. B. Whether the research questions is judged to be a good research question by those outside the study. The option C, the question of whether or not social scientific findings are applicable to people everyday natural social setting. Or it's D, an ambivalence concept whose meaning depends on how it is defined. So the correct answer is option A, that is the question of whether the results of a study can be generalized beyond the specific research context. Now, what is a cross-sectional design. Options are a comparison of two or more variable longitudinally, a design that is devised when the research is in bed mood. C. The collection of data from more than one cases at one moment in time. Or is D. Research into one particular section of society, example the middle class. So the correct answer is option C. That is collection of data from more than one cases at one moment in time. Now the next one is survey research is cross-sectional and as a result it is. Options are low in internal validity but high in replicability. B. High in internal validity but low in reliability. C. None of the above or it's D. High in ecological validity but low in external validity. So the correct answer is option A, that is low in internal validity but high in replicability. What does the term longitudinal design means? Now the options are study completed far away from where the researcher lives. Option B, a study which is very long to read. C, a study with two contrasting cases. Or it's D, a study completed over a distinct period of time to map changes in social phenomena. So the correct answer is option D, that is a study completed over a distinct period of time to map changes in social phenomena. Now the next question is cross-cultural studies are an example of option A longitudinal design, B comparative design, C experimental design, or it's D case study design. So these are the options, and now you have to select the correct answer on the basis of the given choices. And the correct answer will be option B, that is a comparative design. Thank you, students. With this particular narration, you have understood uh, the two educational psychological methods. Thank you so much for your patience listening.